My name is Ruben Martinez, an immigration attorney based in Pasadena, California. Today, I'm going to walk you through what to expect at your marriage-based green card interview, from the moment that you walk into the door to the moment that you hopefully walk out with an approval. Remember, you don't need to be perfect, you just need to be prepared. And so I'm going to walk you through this interview process exactly as I would with my clients. So before the interview, there's a ton of preparation that has to happen. One of the things that we advise our clients to do is to review their entire application package. So hopefully when you filed the application, you made a copy of the entire application package so that you can review it before the interview. This is important because the officer is going to review those forms with you. So you want to double check for inconsistencies on the I-130, the I-485, or the I-864, and make sure that all of that information is accurate. If there are inconsistencies, don't panic. The officer will allow you to revise the forms before they actually have you sign the application. But on the forms, in advance, it's important to look for old addresses, date inconsistencies, or changes that have happened since you filed. The officer will want this updated and corrected information at the time of the interview. So review the entire application package and make sure that you identify inconsistencies, corrections, and other areas that need to be revised. Also, prior to the interview, it's important to note that you're also going to have to bring updated evidence of the relationship. So when you file the actual application with immigration, it's possible that you didn't submit all of the joint documents with the filing. This is especially true if you were just recently married. You're not going to have a ton of joint documents at the filing. But when the interview arrives, that's your opportunity to supplement the application with updated joint documents evidencing the relationship. So this would include photos, joint bills, leases, birth certificates for children, updated affidavits from family and friends if necessary, utility bills, screenshots of texts, updated travel itineraries, and anything else you can think of that shows a commingling of a life together and a shared residence. It's also important to know that there are certain documents for the interview where you'll need to bring originals. So we advise clients to bring originals and duplicate copies for the officer. The officer is going to be backed up with interviews all day that day. So it's important to have actual extra copies for the officer so that the officer doesn't have to make copies themselves. This will save them a ton of time and help the interview run more efficiently. Put everything in a folder and label accordingly. Officers truly appreciate that organization, and it'll go a long way because it'll help the officer get through the interview a lot more efficiently. To make this easier for you, I created a marriage interview guidebook, which includes a checklist, practice questions, and a relationship timeline template so you and your spouse can get organized in advance. It's printable, it's fillable, and it's available at the link in the description below. So let's talk about dress code and presentation. I tell clients to attend the interview as though they're attending a job interview. Business casual is fine. You do not have to wear anything too formal. I just make sure that my clients don't wear hats, shorts, flip-flops, nothing like that. So remember, neat, not flashy. Business casual is absolutely fine. So on the day of the interview, let me tell you what to expect. We usually advise our clients to arrive to the building usually an hour before because it takes time to get through security. When going through the security, it's similar than going through the airport security where they're going to ask you to take off shoes, take off jewelry. If you're not sure where to get in line, you can ask the security officers there at the building and they'll direct you. Again, arrive early. It's better to be early than late, so we tell clients to arrive at least an hour before their expected interview time, especially lately when interviews have ballooned and there are lines sometimes around the building. After you navigate through security, you'll then go to the waiting room and you'll see other couples there. There's usually a line and a counter where you can check in. So let's talk about the interview structure itself. Normally, the officers begin the interview by swearing you in. So they'll have both of you stand up, raise your right hand, and promise to tell the truth. You just need to say yes or I do. After you're sworn in, the officer is going to start with some basic biographic questions. Normally, the officer will begin with the I-130 petition where they'll ask the petitioner and the beneficiary questions at the same time. So first, biographic questions like date of birth, name, work history, residence history are covered. Then the officer will get into the relationship. And this is where couples get the most nervous. During this part of the interview, the officer will ask the petitioner questions and the beneficiary question. If you're unsure who the officer is asking, just ask, do you want me to answer? Would you like my partner to answer? And normally officers will follow this same format. They ask about how you met, your first date, proposal, wedding, and some current life situation. So make sure you have that timeline in order in advance of the interview. So what questions should you expect? So questions can range. They can cover daily routines, finances, family interactions, who cooks, what you did last weekend. So anything that will give the officer probative information about your relationship, they can ask. Remember, your answers don't have to be identical. They have to just be believable and authentic. My guidebook below in the description has a ton of relevant questions that the officers usually ask, so be sure to download that. So here are some major red flags to avoid. It's usually a red flag if the couple has over-rehearsed or robotic answers. So remember, review your timeline in advance, go over some questions in advance, but don't be over-rehearsed. Another red flag are inconsistent timelines, conflicting wedding dates, or conflicting information about when and how you met. Also, not knowing major life facts is another red flag. You don't have to memorize everything, but you should memorize birthdays, anniversary dates, employer names, and relevant information that one would be expected to know. Also remember body language. Another red flag is appearing distant or hostile toward the officer. And what I always tell my clients is that if you don't know an answer, it's okay to say that you're not sure than to guess. And if you don't understand a question, ask for clarification. The time is yours, so don't feel rushed if you're not certain of an answer. Ask for clarification. That's absolutely fine. So here are some things that can happen after the approval. One option is that you get immediate approval. You might get the welcome to the US speech, and the officer will inform you that the green card has been approved and to expect the card within the next 60 days. Practically speaking, the green card usually arrives a lot faster than that. So if the officer indicates that the application has been approved at the interview, you want to keep an eye out on your mail just to see if that comes in. The green card will usually arrive in a red priority mail envelope from USPS. Another thing that can happen is the officer can indicate that a request for evidence will be issued. Requests are more common than people think, and sometimes they're just for missing documents that the officer needs to approve the application. Another thing that could happen is something called a notice of intent to deny. This is rare, but usually the issue here is fixable with a strong legal response or potentially a waiver if necessary. The difference between a notice of intent to deny as well is that the period for response is a lot shorter. So if you receive a notice of intent to deny and you don't have an attorney already, you should consult with an immigration attorney in that instance. And sometimes, rarely, another thing that can happen after the interview is actually a follow-up interview. That is also very rare. This can happen, especially if the couple is separated or going through difficult times at the time of the interview. So based on my experience, here are some insider tips that I can give you. Most denials I've seen could have been avoided by fixing small things up front, like adding more joint evidence or spotting errors in the original application. Couples who prepare together are more relaxed and more believable. If you're not sure of joint documents or you're worried that you don't have enough joint documents, bring what you can. Anything that you have to show that you are in a bona fide relationship is relevant to the application. So don't panic if you don't have the traditional forms of joint documents that you see. Feel free to ask a question in the comments. I always answer them. And don't forget to grab the marriage interview guidebook in my description below. Using this guidebook will allow you to take the guesswork out of preparing for your interview. The link is in the description below. Please subscribe for additional information and good luck on your journey.